Hello everyone, great to be back with you here at MeteoMark's Weather. Welcome to the channel, and let's get right into the weather. We're going to be looking at the tropics, especially the eastern and northeastern Caribbean over the next 4 to 5 days. And then we turn our attention next week here into the western Caribbean, where we could see another tropical wave. So lots of tropical wave action. Could we see an early tropical system? We'll take a look at all the possibilities in your outlook through the next couple months. And we're also going to be watching tremendous storminess across the east. We'll start out with some big severe weather outbreaks here from the plains stretching to the east coast. And then we're going to see some coastal storms develop just in time for Memorial Day weekend and beyond. We're looking at a very stormy couple weeks here along the East Coast. Let's get into it. Don't forget, everyone, before we start, my Hurricane 2025 Outlook. It's a link at the end of this video and description down below. Let's continue. All right, so we're starting off here with your tropics, and we're starting off active here across the Eastern Caribbean. You can see our areas, Trinidad, Tobago, southeastward here with the intertropical convergence zone, and our big old wave action here with this area of low pressure northeast of the Caribbean islands. That'll continue to pinwheel moisture into the southwest flow here. So we'll continue to watch it, Trinidad, Tobago area as well. Starting off a little drier here into the western Caribbean. Now, as we stretch through the 20th into the 21st, Wednesday, or Tuesday into Wednesday here, you can see we're going to continue to watch those moisture plumes continuing across the eastern Caribbean here, the Lesser Antilles for that matter. And we'll continue to watch it here. I don't expect any, development out of this. It's going to be more of a heavy rain flood threat, as has been the last several days. Now, look at this. Through the 21st and the 22nd, later on in the week, GFS is indicating this ridge of high pressure that's camping out well up here towards the southeastern Azores is going to build westward here. So that's going to kind of shut off this moisture plume. Now, watch as we head into the 23rd and the 24th. I turn your attention here to the southwestern Caribbean, because we don't have too much action. We have some scattered showers up here across the northeastern Caribbean. Now, watch what starts to happen. This area of low pressure heads right off the coast of Colombia, and we get this flare-up of moisture here into Central America and the southwest Caribbean. And we'll continue to watch this. It's very persistent. It's been showing up on a lot of these GFS model runs. Not so heavily on the European run. I'll show you that momentarily. It's been bouncing back and forth. But you can see we have kind of on the Atlantic and the Pacific side, right around the 25th here, we have a big ball of moisture with this area of low pressure, this potential tropical wave, and it kind of remains persistent. Now watch what starts to happen here. We get this front to the north, draped from Cancun over to the Bahamas. We'll have to watch this because this could help this draw northward here in time. This is a bit far out, so it's a little bit of a stretch here, May 26th into the 27th. But nevertheless, it is something to watch because the trends have been there to try to develop this area of low pressure into the extreme southern and southwestern Caribbean here. Now, look at through the 28th. We have a potential tropical system over here into the eastern Pacific. Now, look at this. This is going to be the big show here because it looks like just a few scattered showers back to the east here. So look at this as we head through the 29th, the 30th, into the 31st. We may actually have something try to develop. Now, I caution you, this is pretty far out. This is beyond 300 hours. So a lot can change between now and then, but nevertheless, the trends have been there for an area of low pressure and deep tropical moisture feeding up just east of Central America through Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. And this may actually extend eastward here as we get this flow out of the southeast here. Heavier rain may try to develop on the east side of this area of low pressure because it does look pretty broad area of low pressure. And as you can see, this tropical moisture may make it into the Bahamas and all the way up the U.S. East Coast as we stretch into June 1st here. Look at this. So this may be a very interesting system as we stretch into the first part of June. Look at this deep tropical moisture feeding up through parts of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Bahamas, eastern part of Florida, and all the way up the U.S. East Coast around this massive area of Bermuda High that's very far to the east. So this is something we'll have to keep an eye on. Is there anything else beyond that? Well, not so much on the GFS. Here's the intertropical convergence zone out here, and it's staying, as usual, pretty far to the south. The Cape Verde season doesn't get going until later on in July and August. All right, so looking at the Western Atlantic here, especially the Caribbean, thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European model analysis. You can see where the trouble spot's going to continue to lie as we head later Sunday into Monday. Rain showers even back towards Jamaica, parts of Costa Rica and Panama here, and the Northeast Caribbean islands, Puerto Rico, these areas, we are looking at that continued threat of heavy rain heading on into Monday and into Tuesday. We see this boundary just kind of hanging out here, this little trough, and then these impulses of tropical waves just continuing to ride along it, even some heavier rain down towards Trinidad, Tobago area here. And as we stretch through Tuesday into Wednesday, this moves a little bit further west, just south of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, moving westward towards Jamaica. And as we head towards Thursday into Friday of this week, you can see we pivot the heavier rain a little bit further to the west towards Nicaragua, northeastern Honduras, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and then eventually towards Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. And as we head towards Friday into Saturday, that trough and that area of low pressure associated with that tropical wave heads right into Central America here. We're going to continue to watch for the possibility of some very heavy rain continuing here. And then as we just continue a little bit further out here on our previous European run, you can see looking out towards the end of the month, is there any other areas of low pressure tropical waves? Yes, there is. There's a very strong one that enters right around the 27th into the 28th, right around the Eastern and Central Caribbean here. Look at the Eastern Pacific over here, really ramping up. But look at this, heavier rains towards Jamaica as we head towards the 29th into the 30th. You can see the tail ends of these fronts up here too. The Bahamas, Florida, we'll have to watch for, any spin-ups this time of year. We can get those tropical storms. And look at the intertropical convergence zone here, lining up southeast in Trinidad, Tobago, heading right into northern South America here. We'll have to continue to watch that. Increased moisture is likely, and even here into the southern Caribbean, we'll have to watch some of these as well. So we're getting pretty active pretty early here into June 1st, the official start of the Atlantic hurricane season. You can see, so we head through Sunday into Monday, June 2nd. It's still looking pretty active here. Got to watch this front to the northwest. Showers continuing across much of the eastern, central, and southwestern Caribbean. Sea surface temperature anomalies, they are looking still pretty warm here across the Caribbean, western Atlantic, Gulf here. Not as warm as they have been, but I have to say we're still running above average here, anywhere from a half a degree all the way up to 1.5 degrees on average. That is significant as we head out just less than a half a month from hurricane season. All right, so we'll take a look at our climate models here with the tropics. We're looking at our CFS model. I know some of you not a biggest fan of this model, but we'll take a look at it anyways. You can see across the Eastern Caribbean, Southwestern Caribbean, that's where we're seeing our bullseyes of moisture as we stretch through the end of May, that last week into the beginning of June. That pivots towards the northwest here, kind of agreeing with more of the GFS run here with the CFS. And you can see as we go through the second week of June, that first full week into the beginning of the second week, we kind of push that up towards the northwestern Caribbean, eastern Gulf. And then as we stretch through mid-June and late June, you can see we're filling in here across the Caribbean as we stretch through the end of June and to the beginning of July. Looking at our CanZips model here for June, you can see very moist bullseye of heavier precipitation anomalies here from pretty much the entire Caribbean to the western Gulf here. So we'll watch that for June. Very active pattern. I expect tropical systems into July. Look at this. We're surging into the north central part of the Caribbean, western Caribbean as well, into the Gulf. A little bit of an area that's a little bit negative precipitation anomaly here into the southeastern Gulf. That's pretty interesting. We'll watch for that as well as we head into August. And then September here on our CanZips model showing increased moisture here across the Caribbean into October. And it may be a hurricane season that never tries to end here in the southern and eastern Caribbean as we head into November. And if we look at our European run here for precipitation amounts through this week, you can see it's going to be a little bit of a drier week here. We start to moisten things up around Jamaica towards that 30 to 50 millimeters. Same for Dominican Republic here in Haiti. Puerto Rico, a little wetter more towards 40 to 50, 60. In some areas, closer to an inch and a half. Down towards southern Nicaragua here, Costa Rica, these areas closer to 100, 150 millimeters. Now, as we continue to cruise out through the first part of June, things start to surge here across Central America. Not so much Honduras. We do start to get into those 50 to 90 millimeter amounts, Belize as well. But you can see here, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, we do start to moisten things up here a bit. If we just hop over to our GFS run here, we can see what's going to be happening with that as well. So let's just progress this into motion. And this week, you can see the surge of moisture pretty much agreeing with the European model. But look at this. I want to make note of this. This is that area of low pressure that the GFS has been really focusing in on. Look at through Jamaica, Cayman Islands here, eastern Nicaragua, northeast Honduras, even towards Dominican Republic, these areas. We could be seeing areas approaching 200, 250 millimeters. Dominican Republic closer to 150, 200 millimeters, especially into western parts here. So this is something we'll have to keep a very close watch on. Even the western Bahamas, eastern Florida getting clipped with this GFS low pressure run. And if we take a look at the eastern Caribbean here on our GFS run through this week, you can see where this goes all the way through next weekend. You can see where the heaviest rain is going to be on northeast Caribbean islands here, upwards of 60 to close to 100 millimeters bullseye here east of the Virgin Islands. And we'll continue to watch it here, but watch as we go further out into time. GFS is showing an explosion to the west here, but here into the northeast Caribbean islands, continued heavy rain likely. Trinidad, Tobago, you could see a little bullseye down here as well, closer to 70 to 90 millimeters, maybe close to 100 millimeters in some areas. Puerto Rico, yeah, you're averaging some of these areas in these yellow zones are closer to 3 to 4 inches, so we'll watch out for that. And Dominican Republic through Jamaica here, yeah, this is where we're getting heavy, very heavy. And looking at our European run here across the Eastern Caribbean, you can see through this week, there's the wet conditions, a little bit less on the European than it is on the GFS, but you get the idea, about 40 to 70 millimeters on average here. Now, as we continue through that first week of June, you can see not a whole lot of change here. Europeans not grabbing onto that Western Caribbean tropical wave like the GFS is. So we'll continue to watch it here, but wet conditions continuing on the European model here, closer to 50 to as much as 90 millimeters on average. You can see we head down through the Lesser Antilles, some of these areas approaching 100 millimeters. Trinidad, Tobago will watch you as well as that intertropical convergence zone gets cranking. All right, so the rest of your Sunday evening, we'll be looking at showers up here with this upper low across the northeast. Thankfully, you will get some breaks of sun here in New York, Pennsylvania, southern New England. But look at northern New England. We're kind of socked in here. This is stretching through Monday, the 19th as well. So we'll continue to see those clouds and showers just pinwheeling around. Further west, that's where we'll see the sunshine. Although it will be cool, holding down to the low 60s, some areas upper 50s. But you see that upper low, it's kind of stuck south of Nova Scotia. Now we turn your attention to severe weather outlook here. Yeah, this is where severe weather is really going to get cranking here across the plains. You can see, look at this. Yeah, tornado threats running pretty high here across the central plains, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, especially northern Texas here into Arkansas. So you stretch through 10 p.m. on Sunday evening. Look at this. This starts to spread to the east into Missouri and Arkansas. So watch out. This is going to be a big time severe weather outbreak. Also heading slowly to the east here, losing its punch, but still we could get some severe storm cells creeping up on 2 p.m. on Monday here across eastern Tennessee. So we still have that chance. And then the northern plains here, eastern South Dakota into Minnesota, stretching southward to Missouri, Arkansas later in the day. This is where we're going to see a massive severe weather outbreak ensue. And then look at this. Here into the Carolinas, we could see a complex of storms producing some severe weather as well. So as we stretch through 9 p.m. on Monday, look at this. You're eking out a really nice day here into the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, parts of the Mid-Atlantic, into New England. But look at this, is a big old mess here, stretching to the east as we head through 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. This slowly pushes its way to the east. It becomes less as a severe weather threat and more of a flood threat. So for the rest of your Sunday, this is where the big-time severe storms are going to lie. Moderate risk here across south central Kansas. Watch out. This is really bad. And a big area of orange, enhanced risk here from southern Nebraska southward to north central Texas. Monday, the 19th. This is going to spread further east, eastern Kansas, Oklahoma, northeast Texas, Missouri, and northwestern Arkansas. This is where that big enhanced risk for Monday, tornado threat running high. And if you look towards Tuesday, this spreads eastward towards Tennessee here, northern Mississippi, Alabama, that's that enhanced risk. We could be looking at some very strong to severe thunderstorms continuing eastward here. All right, so let's take a look at your weather continuing where our future radar picked up here. So as we stretch through the middle of the week, you can see those showers and thunderstorms continuing across the Midwest. This area of low pressure is going to become a bit cut off, kind of similar to the one southeast of Nova Scotia here. So watch out because this is going to be a very bad pattern, especially for flooding rains here. You can see this low cutting off across the Ohio River valleys. We head on into the 20th here, into Tuesday and into Wednesday. Look at this. This is where we get this trough of low pressure extending from the Dakotas all the way through the Ohio River Valley, eastern Great Lakes. And this is going to try to form some sort of coastal low right around the Outer Banks here, just south of Virginia Beach here, through Thursday and into Friday. And you can see this just takes over the area. Let's see how long this lasts. Does it last through a Memorial Day weekend? Well, unfortunately, you can see it just kind of camps out here off the U.S. East Coast through the 23rd. So we're getting into Friday. It's going to be really close. Look at Nova Scotia. I'll cover this in my Canadian weather outlook several minutes from now, but you can see that trough, these little pinwheel troughs, this area across the plains kind of starting to cut off as well. These systems very slow moving now. As we head into the 24th and the 25th, another area of low pressure tries to form. You can see the clouds and the showers continuing into next Saturday. Now, look what we start to get. By Sunday, the 25th, we do get some clearing here across the Northeast, so we may try to salvage a latter half of the Memorial Day weekend. That would be good, hopefully. Maybe just the first day of bad weather. Now, as we head into the 26th, you see this next area of low pressure creeping in on the actual next Wednesday, or next Monday, for that matter. Now, as we continue to go out here in time, you can see we're going to be watching this area move to the south and to the east here. So we'll continue to watch it here for potential development. Now, we could be looking at a big severe weather outbreak here. Look at this. So as we stretch through the 26th, this is where we're going to be looking, these areas. Now, you know the cooler air is to the north, the big warmer air is to the south, and that's what we're going to be looking at over the next several days to a couple weeks as these areas of low pressure. And, of course, that severe weather turns into a heavy rain threat. As we stretch through the 27th into the 28th, you can see another coastal low trying to take formation here off of Delmarva Peninsula and the Outer Banks, a very drawn-out area of low pressure. As we stretch through the 29th to 30th, and eventually into the 31st, the last day of May, stretching on into June. It looks like this pattern that we're holding through the latter half of May extends even into the first half of June here. You see June 3rd, we're just lining up these coastal systems, and this is from the tropics that I showed you earlier. This is that surge of tropical moisture. This is what we'll be seeing, especially early on in the tropical season, this area of high pressure out here just pushing any of these tropical systems. It's going to be pretty popular this hurricane season, pushing them up the East Coast, all this deep tropical moisture. All right, so for the European run here, we're going to pick up where our future radar left off. And as we stretch through the central part of the week, right around Wednesday, here's Tuesday night into Wednesday. There's that severe weather moving east. You can see it here on the European run, even some mixed precipitation here in the Dakotas, wet snowflakes mixing in. But you can see here across the east, this is where we're going to be looking at those severe thunderstorms making their way into Tennessee, the Appalachians here. Maybe some stronger cells here into eastern Ohio as well, early Wednesday morning. But most of this will be more of a heavy rain threat, and then we stretch through more of a synoptic rain threat as this area of low pressure tries to take root along the U.S. East Coast, right around the Outer Banks. We see this development start. So this is more indicative of a wintertime pattern, and we really stretch that coastal system to the north and to the east. We're hoping we can get this completely out of the way by Memorial Day weekend, but it's going to be a stretch here as this low really does get cut off through Friday here. You see this other low, the secondary low, kind of holding back here across the eastern Great Lakes. That's going to fill in with some scattered showers here. We're going to continue to watch this through Sunday, the 25th into the 26th. Watch here. This is where we're going to see the ring of fire gets suppressed pretty far to the south here as we get cooler temperatures with this cool Canadian high. But watch these thunderstorm complexes head south and east. Some of these could contain big tornadic outbreaks here. So we're going to watch that through Memorial Day, the southern plains, heading on into Tuesday, the 27th. It's going to be the deep south that sees the big activity. Look at this, stretching on into Texas. We could see some massive severe weather outbreaks, even through the Carolinas here as well. We'll have to watch for that. but it turns more towards a coastal low towards the 29th into the 30th. So we kind of get some of this cooler Canadian air filtering its way down into eastern North America down the coastline here. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. This is a very weird weather pattern we're in for late May, heading on into early June. Here's June 1st, by the way. We get this northern stream system moving through the northeast. There's some scattered showers moving through, maybe some lines of convection up here into the northeast. But all in all, a very stormy weather pattern continues. And looking at total liquid equivalent precipitation here, yeah, it's going to be quite a big area of rain across the central states with that severe weather. Even back east as we head on into that troughiness. Yeah, we're going to be looking at a bullseye there across north central Pennsylvania into upstate New York and northern New England. So watch out. Rainy times are ahead across the east. Look at this. This is heading all the way through June 3rd. Yeah, this takes us all the way through Memorial Day weekend. It's looking very wet across the east. Many areas approaching 2 to 4 inches. In these orangish areas, closer to 6 inches. And looking at our European run here for precipitation this week, you can see it takes us all the way through next weekend. It's unfortunately looking very wet across the east here. This takes us into the first part of Memorial Day weekend. Let's back this up. There we go. All right. And then we stretch all the way through June 2nd here. So let's just cruise the rest of the way through Memorial Day weekend. You can see maybe later in Memorial Day weekend, we tone this down a little bit. But then we just head through the end of the month and we're just adding more precipitation. So up in the northeast, we could see about 1.5 inches, close to 3 inches, most areas. Southern Plains, that's where we're getting the bullseye, 4 to as much as 8 inches of rainfall. And Robert Stone here from the Jamestown, New York area, getting out on his birthday here this past Thursday. A beautiful day to behold, to grill. Looking good out there. It was a nice day to be had. Look at that green grass there in the background. He says, been mowing a lot of grass as of late as well here. Nice capture here, Robert. It almost looks like early summer here. And as you can see, cooking the sausage out here on the grill. It was a nice day to behold. Very nice captures, Robert. Thanks for sending those in. Hope you had a good birthday. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted, especially ahead of this busy hurricane season. Don't forget, I have my Hurricane 2025 Outlook, a link in the description down below. And at the end of this video, let's continue. All right, so our upper air pattern here across eastern North America, and most of North America for that matter. You can see as we head into this week, we have a lot of troughiness. This is going to be a very stormy time period here through May 22nd here into the 23rd. You can see the eastern part of North America just inundated with these troughs, these cutoff lows. And it's just going to continue as we head through the end of May, unfortunately through Memorial Day weekend as well. We don't start to see some ridge until, this is even western North America through June 1st. You can still see this trough hanging out across the east as we head into the beginning of June. Looking at our MJO index, yeah, we're actually, this is puzzling because we're going to hover right around 3, 4, and 5. It's going to be very active across eastern North America, and you would think we were closer to 6, 7, and 8 here, and 1. We're not. We're actually into the quieter phases, so this is very puzzling that we're going to have a very unsettled weather pattern across eastern North America. And the NAO index is lining up perfectly with this stormy pattern, staying negative all the way through the last part of May into the beginning of June. All right, so our Canadian weather outlook here, there's only a couple of areas we're going to be watching the west coast with these big, huge Pacific systems, very active pattern. In between, it's going to be very quiet, eerily quiet across the central prairies and provinces here. Southeast Canada will be active with these coastal systems. Now look at this. Yeah, it's basically going to be coastal systems, whether you're on the west coast, British Columbia, the mountainous areas to the valley locations, and then Southeast Canada here. High pressure is going to be dominant right in between here. Maybe a few showers stretching into Saskatchewan here as we head through Tuesday into Wednesday this week. But look at this. You get the idea. Most of the active moisture here, southern Ontario and Quebec, these coastal systems, Nova Scotia by late week. Look at the 23rd, we're getting into some heavy rain here. We'll go over those rainfall amounts momentarily here. It's not going to be snow. That's the good news. It's going to be rain from southern Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland here. And we just draw at these areas of low pressure. Now, the west coast getting hit with another storm by the 24th into the 25th. Very active out here as well. Look at in between. As I said before, nothing much to talk about here as we stretch through the 27th into the 28th. You can see these systems diving southeast. You kind of get the idea. There is a trough across eastern Canada here, as the eastern United States as well. And that's just going to continue through the last part of May. You can see here into the beginning of June 2nd to the 3rd, especially the extreme southeastern provinces here of Canada getting hit. And we do start to finally get some moisture here into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. This could be in the form of severe weather as we head into the first week of June. And if we look at precipitation amounts here on our European run for Canada, it's looking a bit drier there in the central provinces. That's not good news, especially heading into wildfire season. West Coast, a bullseye, and then Southeast Canada, anywhere from 50 to 100 millimeters here. Most areas, though, picking up just 40 to 80 millimeters here in Southeast Canada. Central prairies, as I said before, not a lot. In the West Coast, over 100 millimeters here. And if we take a look at snowfall amounts across Canada, it's mainly confined to the Western Mountains and then these areas into northeastern North America, especially northern Quebec here, over, say, 15 to 20 centimeters here, but nothing for the most part towards the border here unless you're into the southwestern part of Canada, into the Rocky Mountains. And as we take a look at temperatures here, yeah, this is going to be a big story as well. The disparity of temperature differences here, 50s and 60s to the north. Look at these 80s and 90s to the south. So in between, we're going to get that severe weather outbreaks. Unfortunately, we're going to see a very active week. And look at that. Yeah, heat building across the south, all the Gulf Coast above 90 in all areas. And you can see the lakes, the Northeast and the upper Midwest. We're actually held down into the 50s here. This trough really taking hold. It is not feeling like late spring up here. It's just now that it's time to be a late spring, we want to cool down into the 50s. But look at from North Carolina southwestward here. We're getting well into the mid to upper 80s, near 90 in some areas. Thursday, we pivot that trough to the east here. You can see a lot of 50s and near 60-degree readings with that trough, and there will be showers associated with it, as I mentioned. Into Friday, look at this. The lakes in the Northeast were stuck in the 60s here, 50s and 60s. And then look at Saturday next weekend. It's just not looking a lot better. We are warming things up here in the Midwest, back into the upper 60s, into the lower 70s. And then we see heat building here, continuing across the south. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. As we progress through Monday through Friday here, we're looking at mostly sunny skies Monday and Tuesday. That will give way to rain showers Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, unfortunately, as a very unsettled weather pattern takes hold and temperatures cool towards the 50s with that trough of low pressure. And before we continue with more weather coverage, check out these amazing, awesome maps from my affiliate here. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.